Hi! Our next group is called Elinor's Endeavor by Betsy Chutchian. This is a beautiful group that I think you're just going to love. With this group, we have fat quarters, fat eights, jelly rolls, honey buns, layer cakes, charm packs, and mini charms. Let me put them to the side so you can see the collection. There's 40 pieces in this line, and it comes in either 15, 10 yards, or the half collection, which is 20 pieces at 10-yard cuts. The collection is shipping in November, and I'm going to show you a few different quilt patterns now, but then we're going to get Betsy Chutchian to come on and tell you a few more things about the wonderful line that we have here. So behind me, you'll see this gorgeous kit. This kit is actually 64 by 64, and it's going to include the yardage, the background, the blocks, and the applique and the binding. I know you can't see because you're not here in person, but the coloring here on this fabric is just gorgeous, and the applique is just magnificent. The next quilt we have is called Star for the Lady, and this is by Jan Paddock Quilts. It's going to be 40 by 41. Then we have a snowman up top by Jan Paddock, as well as down here, Charming Elinore. Here's another wonderful one by Sarah J. Center Point Stars, 62.5 by 77.5. And then by Wendy Shepard, it's called Twinkle Twinkle, 70 by 90. Now let me turn it over to Betsy Chutchian so she can tell you some great things about the line.
Thanks, Lisa. I'd love to tell you a little bit more about Elinor's Endeavor. It's a beautiful quilt line that I designed from the time period 1830 through 1910. And I know that's a long period of time, but we worked in some nice options for you with beautiful prints and colors that span the entire time period. So the first two quilts that you see here are called Countryside. Countryside in a fall way and Countryside in spring. Elinore loved spring and fall, but spring and summer were their busiest times of the year on the ranch. In the fall, she would take her daughter Jareen and they would go visit other families throughout Wyoming in their area, and Elinore would be a midwife, or they would just go to visit. They did all kinds of things. But in the spring, they were busy with new births, cattle and sheep, and taking care of them and everything that was involved in running a ranch. So we have taken this early time period fabric and incorporated it into Elinore's story, even though Elinore wasn't born until 1876. You'll want to see the florals and how they work with the little prints. And I think it reads very pretty and romantic. And I think you'll enjoy working with them. We have 4 different floral color backgrounds, and they could easily be interchanged with the simple chimney sweep design. This quilt is called Tall Pines, and it's very reminiscent of the time that Elinore would take Jareen out in the country and they would camp and look up in the sky and see the beautiful stars and the tall trees all around them. I think it's a beautiful quilt, and it just illustrates a little bit of their time together. In Tall Pines, we have used our 5-inch pre-cuts for the charm packs, along with assorted prints. So you will want to make that easy and quick, and I used cupcake papers. I believe it's recipe 2 I should have that information with me, but I don't off the top of my head. Anyway, I enjoy using those cupcake papers whenever I get a chance. So this was really fun to put together. I hope you can see this. This is a sweet little dog quilt I bought a number of years ago in Kansas City. And I fell in love with it because of its simplicity, but it also speaks exactly to Elinores' time period. It's late 1800s, early 1900s, so it fits right in our time frame. And it was actually the first part of the inspiration for Elinores' line. And as I drew the pattern and pieced all the blocks, I knew that it was perfect for the end of the century and perfect for the end of the time period. Elinore would have been a very practical seamstress, a very practical quilter. Most of her quilts would have probably been made of wool. But if she had made something like this for one of her hired hands or a neighbor, it would have been very, very simple. And what I think is fun about this dog quilt is it's just rectangles, just little rectangle pieces put together in two different blocks. So I've tried to arrange them in a very pleasing manner when you look at the quilt that I made. The quilt that I made is called Make Do. And so I think that's very typical of the late time period, where women just took things from their scrap bags and they pieced together anything that would work out and then whip it up into a quilt, simply quilt it, and it would give them warmth, or they could give it to a friend. So this is actually the end of the time period, but it's where our story began. So if you like, I want to show you one other thing. And I thought about this long after we had designed it and put it on the in the catalog and in the sell sheets for the salesman. But I thought it would be lovely for you to take any one of the large floral or the plaid or one of the darker black pieces and put on as a border. And that would make it just a little bit bigger quilt, and it would give it a little fresh look and make it very personalized for you. So I think you'll enjoy making this. It was fun, and it makes me think of Eleanor and her daughter and her life on the ranch. She wanted to be a homesteader of her own, have her own homestead. So she'd had a rather hard life. So I think Eleanor always endeavored to find happiness and to make good out of any situation she was in. She was born on in the Indian nation of what is now Oklahoma. Her parents died when she was 18, and she was then left to raise her siblings. And then she moved after her parents passed away and she was raising her siblings. She finally did decide to get married. She was only married for a very short time, and her husband was killed in a railroad accident. She was expecting Jareen at the time. After that, after his death, she moved to Denver and began working for what became a very good friend, a lady in Denver. And then she took an ad, she looked at an ad in a paper written by Mr. Stewart in Wyoming, and she answered his ad, took Jareen by train to Wyoming, and wanted to make her own homestead. She worked for him and then fell in love with him, and they got married, and she had children with him. So it was a very adventurous life, and I think it's very appropriate for our time right now to always put one foot in front of the other and just keep going and endeavor to make the best out of all of our situations. Hope you enjoy Elinore's endeavor like I do. Thank you.